We have all thought about this at least once. What if Pokemon were real? Maybe you thought about it as a kid, maybe it was yesterday, but I'm convinced there is no one in the Pokemon community who hasn't had that thought cross their mind. While the idea sounds cute enough initially, I mean, who wouldn't want an adorable Eevee? It doesn't usually take long to realize the dangers that will come with it. Monstrous dragon types, beasts the size of a baseball bat, poison everywhere. It wouldn't exactly make for a safer planet. So what if we were to move to the Pokemon world instead? What would then be the most dangerous places on Earth? That's exactly what I want to look at today. We're gonna go through every Pokemon region and pick the most dangerous area in each, accounting for the wild Pokemon found there, the climate and weather, and any and all other factors that could impact the safety of a traveling trainer. And we of course start in Kanto, which is a region with a ton of pretty dangerous areas, I would say. Interestingly enough, this is actually one of the few regions in the Pokemon world that has an area that is in-game dangerous to humans, being the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town. Here we find channelers seemingly possessed by the ghost Pokemon of the tower, which at first sight makes it a candidate with actual canon evidence backing it up. However, we soon find out the only reason the Pokemon lashed out like this was the presence and uproar of Team Rocket. Most of the time, this place is a peaceful graveyard where people come to mourn. The fact it later turns into a radio tower in Gen 2 should also be considered, I'd say, suggesting that the place is at least not environmentally dangerous. That definitely doesn't apply to the many caves of this region. Take the Seafoam Islands for example. Extremely strong water currents, seemingly freezing low temperatures, and plenty of holes for you to fall through, which may make for a nice puzzle element in-game, but are outright dangerous in real life. There are too many dangerous Pokemon here, however. Most are just chill ice types, and the fact Blaine moves his gym here following the destruction of Cinnabar Island further suggests it isn't too dangerous. Cerulean Cave is also a very strong candidate. In fact, the Pokemon found here are so dangerous the public isn't allowed in, which makes this location a bit of a tricky one to judge, I found. On one hand, it is literally the most dangerous area in Kanto, I feel like that's clear, but on the other, if you're allowed inside, you're most likely strong enough to handle it. So my pick for the most dangerous area in Kanto would be Rock Tunnel. It is much more easily accessible, but environmentally arguably even more dangerous, seeing as it's pitch black and super easy to get lost in. While Onix is a bit of a pushover in-game, through the lens we look at it today, it is arguably among the most dangerous Pokemon in the entire region. So yeah, Rock Tunnel would be my vote, although that is only because I see the limitations placed on Cerulean Cave as a mitigating factor that gives Rock Tunnel the slightest edge. Johto is next, which is significantly safer than Kanto. It has very few extreme environments, and there aren't any canonically hazardous areas either. From an environmental standpoint, Mount Silver is probably the most dangerous. It's a very long trek through a harsh and difficult landscape, filled with several Pokemon that could easily mean your end, like Arbok, Ursaring, Onix and Sneasel. It says enough that the only human we find here is Red, literally one of the best trainers of all time, and just like Cerulean Cave, the mountain is off limits to unskilled trainers. However, at the same time, Mount Silver is at least a known danger. As long as you are well prepared and capable, you should be able to tackle it. And as such, I don't want to exclude the Ruins of Elf. On the surface, there is nothing seriously threatening here. It's just old ruins and some weird Pokemon, that's it. But that's merely the surface. Everything about this area feels like supernatural events could happen in the blink of an eye. Being teleported away to some sort of weird pocket dimension, never to be seen again, it feels like a possibility here. Now, obviously we have never actually seen this happen, save for the anime, and so this essentially turns me into the Pokemon version of a conspiracy nut. The big question here is, do you believe? If so, the Ruins of Elf might be even more dangerous than Mount Silver, but if not, then yeah, it's easily Mount Silver. As a region, Hoenn is much more diverse and tropical than the previous two, containing plenty of exotic locales we hadn't seen before. As such, I would say that on average, this region is easily more dangerous than Johto. A highlight or lowlight, I guess, depending on how you look at it, is Shoal Cave, whose high and low tide mechanic could be quite dangerous in real life if you're unprepared. But if you're say Steven or Wallace, this area shouldn't be too much of a problem. And that doesn't apply to another route we travel through, Fiery Path. This area just flat out doesn't feel safe. It's literally inside the active volcano Mount Chimney, and we can see the steam and fumes linger in the air. I doubt those are good for your health. The wild Pokémon found here are also not exactly guardians of a clean environment. Coughing, Grimer, Slugma, Torkoal, those would be quite dangerous Pokémon to be in a closed off environment with for too long. It says enough that this bang average route doesn't have any trainers on it. That usually only applies to places of great mystique hiding legendary Pokémon. Caves also have a danger of collapsing, obviously, and none we've covered so far feel as likely to do so as Fiery Path. You could have 6 powerful Pokémon on hand, but they won't protect you against the threats of Fiery Path as much as a mouth mask would. On to Sinnoh, which has a similar location in Stark Mountain. You know, it's kinda interesting how much more dangerous and active this place looks in Platinum compared to Diamond and Pearl. Stark Mountain has a lot more dangerous Pokémon than Fiery Path had, including names like Camerupt, Banette, Rhyhorn and of course Heatran. But as an environment, it's more of a cave than a volcano, which definitely feels less threatening. And in the cave department, I think Sinnoh has something even more dangerous to offer. I mean, it's kinda in the name. Turnback Cave. It's so incredibly easy to get lost in here, and since you can't even use dig or an escape rope to find your way out, you can't even adequately prepare for it. It contains all kinds of dangerous ghost Pokémon like Dusclops, Ghastly and Haunter, and only the literal Pokémon Devil that is Giratina. Oh, and did I mention Turnback Cave houses a portal to the Distortion World, a place you very much do not want to end up in? Really, Turnback Cave is an area you should realistically never ever want to visit. There is so much that can go wrong here, I would easily put it among the most dangerous areas in the Pokémon world, period. Next up, Unova, which is a very urbanized region and as such not as dangerous as say Sinnoh or Hoenn. A notable exception is the Desert Resort though. It may sound peaceful and relaxing, but it is everything but. Sandstorms are constantly raging, every step you set is in sand obviously, which would be incredibly tiring in real life, and venturing deeper into the Relic Castle would be an outright nightmare. There's quicksand and sand pits everywhere, you can so easily get lost inside where no one will ever find you, and wild Pokémon include Onix, Krokorok, Yamask and Cofagrigus, and one of the strongest bug types of all time in Volcarona, which would be an immensely dangerous Pokémon to face in real life. The dex makes it sound like they're more helpful than harmful, but the fact their scales burn like embers doesn't sound like a Pokémon I'd love to be alongside in a closed off space who knows how deep underground. For Kalos, I feel like there is one obvious location everyone would immediately point at. Route 14, also known as a Laveur Nature Trail. Not only is it a dark, gloomy swamp, it also kicks off with an eerie children's playground and ends with a scary house, complete with wild stories about a horde of faceless men. Definitely unsettling, wouldn't be my preferred route to reach Illumio City, but here's the thing. This is more creepy than it is dangerous, I would say. Swamps are not exactly safe, but they're not exactly unbearable either, as long as you're careful with your steps, and the presence of a children's playground nearby further underlines that. Instead, my vote would go towards Route 17, Mamoswine Road. The environment here is so harsh that you need a random Pokémon of the titular variety to make your way through. That's how thick the snow is and how boulders can wreck your journey. I can only imagine how low the temperature dips in this area, that cannot be fun. This is also another route where we barely find any trainers, which has proven to be a surprisingly good tell as to what areas are to be considered dangerous. And while the wild Pokémon here are nothing absolutely terrifying, Abomasnow and Sneasel can definitely mess you up. And that last one better not evolve, because Weavile are set in the Pokédex to hunt Mamoswine in a group, and I doubt they'll leave the rider alone. Alola is probably among the safest regions we have visited, which fits its image as a tourist hotspot. Obviously though, that is only if we don't consider the Ultra Beast invading and the Ultra Spaces we end up visiting, which we very much should not, because these are not common occurrences in the region and more freak accidents. And so, I think Alola's most dangerous area is quite similar to Kalos. Mount Lanakila, a freezing mountain without snowstorms admittedly, but with way more dangerous Pokémon, adding Vanillux, Glalie and Golbat onto Abomasnow and Sneasel, and Absol being present is not exactly good news either. Furthermore, you also have to consider how big of a climate shift Mount Lanakila is compared to the rest of Alola. In most places in this region, wearing as much as a coat is enough to have you overheating, but Mount Lanakila is freezing cold. It makes it so it's an area you're quite likely to venture into unprepared, either as tourist or local Alolan, and that's something I feel we should factor in. Galar is a very interesting region to look at from the perspective of this video, because while like 90% of the base game region is extremely safe, the remaining 10%, known to friends as the wild area, is very much not. Extremely dangerous and unpredictable environments, ranging from sandstorms to snowstorms, and some of the most dangerous Pokémon in the world casually walking about, ready to chase after you once you get too close. When you think about it, it's kinda crazy how close this area is to a heavily populated place like Hammerlock. No wonder there's a big wall around it. That said, I will accept the argument that the wild area is too large to be considered as a single entry, and should instead be split up. And if that's the way we're going, then I actually think there's a place in a completely different part of the region that has to win. In the Crown Tundra we have the Giant's Bed, which has such a large concentration of dangerous Pokémon in the same square mile, it should really be closed off. Gyarados, Aerodactyl, Nidoking and Queen, Galvantula, Durant, Araquanid, Grimmsnarl, Vanillux, Obstagoon, Glalie, should I go on? While the environment initially doesn't appear too dangerous, aside from the cold temperature that is, the presence of Absol further suggests things can go very wrong here. So if we're zooming into a specific part of a larger area, the Giant's Bed would get my vote. Next up is Hisui, which is a surprisingly tricky one. The entire point of Legends Arceus is that nowhere is safe from the brutality of wild Pokémon, especially the Alpha variants, and how dangerous the wilderness of the region is literally a vital part of the game's plot and setup. However, only one area can be the most dangerous, and I would argue that is the Coronet Highlands. While every area contains life-threatening Pokémon, names like Gengar, Garchomp, Gliscor, Rhyperior, Gyarados and Crobat stand out as particularly nasty. Not to mention, this is also where Spare Pillar is, meaning it technically also contains the world-threatening dangers the legendary Pokémon bring along. But most of all, the landscape itself is a real threat. There are so many high cliffsides here, one wrong move while chased by an Alpha Pokémon can send you pummeling towards your doom or at least a severe injury. And I doubt the Garchomp waiting for you down there will give the nearby Chansey population a ring. And finally we have Paldea, where I will also lump in Kitakami and the Blueberry Academy. Not that it matters, because the most dangerous place of Gen 9 is located in Poké Spain. And yeah, it's a little anticlimactic for the final region of the video, but there really is no way to build up suspense here. The most dangerous place in Paldea is Area 0, no doubt about it. It ticks literally all the boxes. Off limits for basically everyone, check. Incredibly strong and dangerous Pokémon, check. Hazardous landscape, check. I mean, how many locations in the Pokémon world can say they have canonically caused the deaths of at least one, but perhaps several different people? Not a whole lot, that's for sure, but Area 0 is one of them. In fact, I think a very strong argument can be made that Area 0 is the most dangerous location in the Pokémon world as we currently know it. Literally all it lacks is extreme harsh weather conditions, like a snow or sandstorm. But considering how many ridiculously high ledges and cliffs this place has, I would still say it has the environmental threat factor more than covered. So yeah, those are the places you should definitely try to avoid next time you get sent into the Pokémon world. What would you consider the most dangerous locales in the series? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Pokémon content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.